He wasn't a YouTube sensation. He wasn't a high school phenom. And when his name was called in the 2018 NBA draft, the spotlight was barely on him. No big headlines, no outrageous predictions. Just a quiet, long-armed guard from Hamilton, Ontario, with a silky smooth game and a chip on his shoulder. Fast forward to today, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander isn't just a star, he's a full-blown MVP candidate, leading the Oklahoma City Thunder to the top of the Western Conference, averaging over 30 points per game, breaking ankles, locking up opposing guards, and doing it all with zero drama. So how did this quiet Canadian kid go from underrated prospect to one of the most feared players in the NBA? Let's rewind and uncover the rise of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Shai wasn't born into basketball royalty. Born in Hamilton, Ontario, a city better known for hockey than hoops, Shai started slow. His dad was a former track athlete from Jamaica. His mom ran hurdles and helped coach him in footwork drills. Shai didn't grow up playing in elite circuits or dunking at 13. He was more about feel and fundamentals. But what he did have, a 6 feet 6 inches frame, absurd length, and an unshakable work ethic. After being overlooked in Canadian rankings, he transferred to Hamilton Heights Christian Academy in Tennessee, where his game started evolving fast. Coaches loved his patience, his court vision, and most importantly, his maturity. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but he was effective. And that earned him a scholarship to the University of Kentucky. Even there, he wasn't the guy. Projected as a bench player, Shai worked his way into the starting lineup by mid-season and ended up being the Wildcats' most consistent and clutch player during March Madness. By the end of that year, NBA scouts couldn't ignore him anymore. When Shai Gilgeous-Alexander declared for the 2018 NBA draft, he was not a lock for the lottery. In fact, most scouts had him pegged as a mid to late first-round pick. He didn't have the gaudy stats of a college superstar, nor the mixtape buzz of other prospects. But what he did have was potential. Long arms, excellent instincts, and a smooth, unbothered pace that made you look twice. On draft night, the Charlotte Hornets selected Shai at number 11 overall, only to immediately trade him to the LA Clippers in a deal for Miles Bridges. At the time, the headlines weren't about Shai. They were about Luka, Trey, and Ayton. Shai was a footnote, a raw Canadian guard that might pan out. But that footnote turned out to be one of the most complete rookies of the entire class. Shai joined a Clippers team that was in transition. No more Chris Paul, no Blake Griffin, and no superstar ego to demand touches. The result? Opportunity. In just his rookie year, he played 82 games, started 73 of them, averaged 10.8 points, 3.3 assists, and 1.2 steals, shot over 47% from the field, became a defensive problem for opposing guards with his 6 feet 11 inches wingspan. But numbers don't tell the whole story. What really stood out was Shai's poise. He played with a control and maturity you don't expect from rookies. He picked his spots, didn't rush, and read the floor like a 10-year vet. Clippers coach Doc Rivers raved about him. You don't have to coach him twice. He just gets it. By the time the playoffs rolled around, the Clippers faced a dynastic Warriors team with KD, Steph, and Clay. Most expected a sweep. Instead, the Clippers took 2 games off the champs, and Shai dropped 25 points in Game 4, going shot for shot with Hall of Famers. The message was clear. This kid was special. Just when it seemed like Shai might become the long-term PG of the future for LA, the Clippers made a blockbuster move. In the summer of 2019, they traded Shai, along with Danilo Gallinari and 5 first-round picks, to the Oklahoma City Thunder in exchange for Paul George to team him up with Kawhi Leonard. To most fans, it was a no-brainer. You don't pass up a shot at a title just to keep a good rookie, right? But quietly, Shai became the steal of that trade. OKC had no idea what they were getting, and LA had no idea what they were giving up. This wasn't just a developing role player. This was the future of the franchise. When the blockbuster trade hit in July 2019, it felt like the NBA world shook. The Los Angeles Clippers were all in on chasing a championship. Kawhi Leonard had just won a ring in Toronto, and his condition to join the Clippers was simple: bring Paul George with me. To make it happen, LA gave up a king's ransom, 5 first-round draft picks, Danilo Gallinari, and 1 quiet second-year guard from Canada, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. At the time, most headlines read, "Clippers go all in to win now." Very few said, "Thunder just stole their future." But as it turns out, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was the gem of that entire trade. OKC fans were heartbroken. Russell Westbrook was gone. Paul George was gone. The team looked like it was headed for a multi-year rebuild. But instead of bottoming out, something surprising happened. Shai arrived and immediately earned respect. Even with veterans like Chris Paul and Danilo Gallinari on the roster, it was clear, this is Shai's team. It's just not official yet. In his first year with OKC, averaged 19.0 points, 5.9 rebounds, and 3.3 assists. Shot 47% from the field. Played all 70 games and helped lead the Thunder to the 2020 playoffs. This wasn't development mode. This was production mode. Shai was closing games, making smart reads, and defending both guard spots. And in the playoffs, he put up 30 points in a must-win Game 3 against the Rockets. For a guy who was supposed to be a long-term project, Shai was looking like a guy who could lead right now. When Chris Paul was traded to Phoenix the following season, Shai was handed the keys to the franchise. And what did he do? He turned from a promising young guard into a full-on scoring assassin. In the 2020-21 season, averaged 23.7 points and 5.9 assists, became a three-level scorer, floaters, mid-range, downhill drives, was getting double-teamed and still finding ways to score efficiently. Most importantly, his game never looked rushed. He didn't need crazy speed or flashy handles. He used footwork, patience, and angles. By 2022, Shai was putting the league on notice. Players were whispering about him in post-game interviews. Defenders were dreading him in isolation. And GMs were wondering why LA ever let him go. By 2022 to 2023, the numbers started speaking for themselves. 31.4 points per game, fourth in the league. First-time All-Star, first-team All-NBA. Led the league in drives per game and was top 5 in free throws attempted. At just 24 years old, Shai had officially become that guy. He wasn't a young star on the rise anymore. He was a superstar, plain and simple. He had elevated OKC from a rebuilding project to a legitimate playoff threat, surrounded by emerging talent like Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren. The Paul George trade was supposed to be about Kawhi and titles in LA, but the real winner? Oklahoma City. And more specifically, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He didn't just prove he was good enough to lead a team, he proved he was better than the all-star he was traded for. Quietly, efficiently, relentlessly. And now, with OKC back in the playoff mix and Shai in the MVP conversation, the league is finally giving him the credit he earned years ago. By the 2022-23 season, SGA was a different beast. Averaged 31.4 points, 5.5 assists, and 4.8 rebounds. Made his first All-Star team, finished 5th in MVP voting, was selected to the All-NBA first team. Let that sink in. From the 11th pick in the draft to top 5 in MVP voting, without the hype, without the drama. And by 2025, Shai has taken the Thunder to the top of the Western Conference standings, alongside young stars like Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. He's not just scoring, he's leading. He's not just putting up numbers, he's dominating on both ends. His isolation game is surgical. His footwork is elite. His defense is lockdown. He's the closest thing we've seen to a modern-day Clyde Drexler with a hint of Luka's pace and Dame's control. The scary part? He's just 26 years old. By now, you've seen the stats. You've seen the highlights. You've seen the rise. But what makes Shai Gilgeous-Alexander different? It's not just the numbers. It's the way he plays, the mentality he carries, and the aura he brings to the court every single night. Shai doesn't play like today's typical superstar. He plays like an assassin who's read every page of the playbook and is 3 steps ahead before you even blink. The first thing that stands out? His pace. Shai isn't fast. He's not shifty like Ja Morant. He's not overpowering like Giannis. But he plays with this unshakable calm, a style that's almost hypnotic. He slows the game down to his speed. He lulls defenders with long strides, then bursts at the perfect moment. He uses hesitation dribbles like a surgeon uses a scalpel. And he doesn't rely on volume threes. He lives in the mid-range and paint, think Luka Doncic's tempo, but with better footwork and defense. And because of that poise, defenders are constantly off balance. They never know when he's going to pull up, drive, or dish. He's not flashy defensively, but he's smart. And in crunch time, he locks in. That's why coaches trust him to close games, on both ends of the floor. In today's league, you see stars demanding trades, chasing headlines, or padding stats. Not Shai. He doesn't argue with refs. He doesn't complain about teammates. He doesn't demand the spotlight. He just works. You never see his name in drama. You never see him post cryptic tweets. He leads by example, not with ego. And that's why OKC's young core rallies around him. Players like Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and Josh Giddey have full confidence in him, not just as a scorer but as a leader. Let's not forget, he's Canadian. And in a post-Vince Carter, post-Steve Nash world, Shai is quickly becoming Canada's next great basketball icon. He represented Team Canada in the 2023 FIBA World Cup and helped them win bronze, their first medal since 1936. The kid from Hamilton? Now he's not just putting Canada on the NBA map. He's becoming a symbol of its next basketball era. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is only 26 years old. He is a top 5 scorer in the league, a proven leader, a two-way nightmare, and one of the most efficient guards of his generation. The NBA's spotlight often shines on the loudest names, but sometimes it's the quiet storm that does the most damage. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander didn't demand attention. He earned it, with work, with patience, with purpose. And now, he's the face of one of the league's most exciting teams. He's rewriting what superstar looks like, and he's only just beginning. So next time someone asks you who's really built for this game, tell them about the quiet Canadian kid who took over the NBA without ever raising his voice. By the hoop. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below.